We are getting started. Our speaker tonight, Csilla Brimer. Yes. Csilla Brimer. We're talking about data sovereignty. Give it up for our speaker.
Okay. Thank you guys for inviting me, and nice to see so many people. My name is Csilla Brimer. I was originally born in Transylvania, so was my love for freedom. And I lived across Europe, in the United Kingdom, and now here in America is the best thing that ever happened to me. Obviously, with my background, experiencing communism, I'm very passionate about freedom and data sovereignty, particularly. That's my baby. Professionally, I'm a blockchain consultant, so I work with startups and corporations that want to integrate blockchain. But privacy is like my biggest passion. So I speak at conferences, and we organize hackathons and workshops, most recently in Mexico for Monerotopia. I'm a huge Monero supporter. How many people heard about Monero here? Oh, good. We have a Monero crowd. I'll bring some stickers. Cool. Okay, so that's just a first quote from me. It's like, maybe you won't miss cash, which we know it's going to go away. And unfortunately, we like it or not, it's going to happen at some point. But if you ever do, in a cashless society, Monero is a store of freedom. Permission to trade in peace as a free human being, away from relentless surveillance, an empowering tech solution to own, control, and protect your financial data. It has a protocol level, always on privacy policy, and the most trusted digital cash with the user enforced respect and dignity. So I'm going to cover a lot of different topics. This is more like a high-level awareness of, first of all, like what type of surveillance mechanisms are out there, what to watch out for, and like what alternative tools you can use that are easy to use. Now, I'm a huge fan of easy-to-use tech solutions, because I think anything that's too cypherpunky and too complicated is just not going to get used by the average user. So what is happening right now? Unfortunately, they are building a 360 surveillance grid. Now, the only big difference between China, Europe, and the US is that China is already there. In Europe, they already have pilot programs, and the US is just right behind. And this is all happening simultaneously. The three areas are IDs, digital IDs, so any kind of like electronic identification, eSIM registrations, these are all conducive to tracking your identity. Mobile driving license, my Colorado included in that. Everyone is so proud of it. I'm not sure I like it. Remote qualified e-signature, every kind of e-health prescription, facial recognition everywhere. I'm sure you guys seen the flock safety. They look like solar panels, and it's horrifying. You can literally go on the website. You don't even have to be a police officer. You can just be any person who pays for the database. Type in someone's driver's license and get a real-time. It will tell you if they were at this location 10 minutes ago. I think it's like the creep's paradise to be able to check people in real time. Obviously, the airport checks, which we are fighting really hard. In a lot of cities, they started using it without any permission, and now we're trying to roll it back. Social media, KYC, they are pushing for that, and education. In terms of public surveillance, I even see spyware jewelry. They popularizing spyware jewelry. They basically ankle bracelets sold as jewelry that is going to record all your conversations, IoT, so smart TVs, Alexa, security camera, thermostats, even beds that record you, refrigerators, coffee machines, and drones. And they even have like a surveillance a police surveillance puppy that would just run around and be able to arrest people. Is just terrifying. And then last but not least, this is more behind the scene is all the financial surveillance. So for example, if you get in an accident, what Geico or any insurance company instantly does, they check your bank account and they check your phone location, and so to verify if you are in the area. So instantly they go for that. Okay, so this is in Europe right now. It's called EID. So if you can see, they already have a pilot that would centralize everything that you're doing. So your driver's license, your diplomas, your insurance, travel, and then you will have to use this anywhere you go, to the hospital, to the theater, bank, and it will govern the transactions, your access, and basically you lose all anonymity at once. You have to prove your age, and it's easy to think how easily this can be used against you if they don't like you, you don't have a good political opinion, or perhaps you use the word freedom too often. So digital identity, in addition to obviously the surveillance, there's other technical risks as well. I mean, they can be misused. We see that there's almost weekly a data breach, and nothing is being done. And if people ask me, I always say that everything data management should be zero knowledge proof at this point, because there's been so many data breaches and nothing is being done. And the cost would be so much smaller to actually switch to a zero knowledge proof data management than to pay for the lawsuits. Then it would just make sense. So the government and private sector abuse, we are seeing that already. And there are also other digital risks like data breaches and human execution errors or unauthorized credential uses. So the eSIM registration, so they're pushing for this as well. I still have like an old SIM, but I know these days they're pushing for eSIMs. Now eSIMs have a lot of risks, and obviously it opens you up for surveillance as well. So if you can stay in some countries, you already cannot buy old school SIM cards, but if you can stick to that, because they can do international data sharing, they profile you based on your phone number. I talked briefly about the airport facial recognition security. So this is opening doors to widespread facial recognition, and I've done this presentation in April in Dallas, and I just saw that now Apple came out with a pilot, a patent, that in case the facial recognition doesn't catch your face for whatever reason, then they want to make sure that they use your kinesthetics, your mobility, to identify you based on your moves. I mean, it's just becoming a nightmare. If anybody is pushing for a data protection legislation to prevent this in Colorado, I would love to support that. Anything because it's getting out of control. Like there was a 52-year-old gentleman who had his home insurance increased. And when they looked into it, turns out that the home insurance company sent out a drone. The drone flew over the roof, and then those images were sent to AI. AI said the roof is too old, so they bumped his insurance. I mean, it's it's out of control of how they're using these data against you. The same thing happens with cars as well. So, for example, if you have OnStar, it's monitoring every time you brake, every time you accelerate, and then AI will assign a risk score based on that, and your insurance can be either increased or decreased based on it. Okay, so how does China use facial recognition? Again, this evolved since, but they have over 7 million facial recognition surveillance cameras. I think I'm trying to remember, but the US is number 2. I think we have 6.5 facial recognition cameras per person. Like the US is number 2. So we're not very far off China in terms of our surveillance. It's everywhere, and obviously the cars are stopped. I just came back in January from London. You guys probably heard of the ULEZ cameras. They have these people who are we call them Blade Runners, because they cut off the cameras because they're so upset about being monitored. Yeah, and they cutting off. You pay 12 pounds every day if you have an older car and you're driving. That's like an extra car payment. And so a lot of people who are perhaps self-employed, and they just go to, like, if you're a plumber and you need to go see a client, you're going to spend money before you even know if that client is going to hire you. So people are very upset. It's affecting mostly self-employed people and those who have to travel. So we really, the reason I'm doing this presentation is because I want you guys to see where this is going and why we really need to get data management under control before it gets this worse, this bad. So social media censorship. So I got this from quarter three. There was 9.6 million content actions on hate speech on Facebook. And 94.8% proactive rate on hate speech. And this company, Center for Countering Digital Hate, actually is owned by people who live in England and sell yachts, and which is quite bizarre to me that the English folks own companies that are censoring our speech here in America. It seems bizarre. So social media KYC and social media credit score, obviously in China, you guys may have seen these. There was a Chinese influencer who was having a cake in a video, right? And they interpret that cake as it's a symbol of the Tiananmen Square crackdown. And before he even finished the video, they just busted through the door and they shut down his video. I mean, that's how bad it is over there. And they don't have the freedom to speak up anymore. They don't have a platform like we do. So we must not allow our social media to get, under the KYC verification, because it's going to get that bad. Then they have, obviously, bans. So examples, like on TikTok, they ban LGBTQ. They ban anything that looks sexy, weird, vulgar, unapproved, relationship advice. I mean, they basically control, just like in communism, every single aspect of your life. What you can say, what you can post, your social credit score, and what you can access, what you cannot access. It's complete slavery at this point. Of course, they can also prevent you from buying any kind of weapons. In China, they require them to chain their knives, and they have a registration number for the knives. So that's the picture, so that they don't attack the government, because the government at this point is paranoid. We have, fortunately, the Second Amendment, in Europe, you guys see the situation. So this is the pendant that I was talking about. So they sell this as jewelry. It's not even that. It doesn't even look nice. It's just a recording device. But they say there's a rewind pendant, and it's wearable, captures everything you say. And it stores it on your phone locally. That's the red dog. So that's a drone dog that would just run around and catch criminals. And it would walk around the street and monitor everything. And this is in the US, the red dog. And then they have these. In the UK, they already have these lamps. And I was sick. I was walking my sister's dog, and you go in the park, and you have these lamps that are just monitoring you, in the park as you're walking the dog. There's just no safe space. There's no privacy anymore. Anywhere you go, they have so many cameras. So we urgently need a public discourse about this. What about individual privacy? What if you are wearing this pendant and I do not want my speech recorded? What rights do I have then?
You mentioned it being sold as jewelry. Is that it, After. Questions after. Sorry. Okay.
Oh. Yeah, it's being sold as jewelry, pendant. And they have ankle bracelet. I mean, it's wild to me, and people buy it. Actually, that's the worst part. It's in our home, in our car. everyone around you. I mean, you're not going to have literally a corner of space where you can be by yourself privately, not be recorded once they enroll all these things. So we really need to create regulations that would safeguard, like, what are your rights if everywhere you go there's cameras and people are recording? So why Monero matters? So I put out 3 cases because these are like the most famous ones. So you guys remember the Freedom Convoys in Canada? Yes. So they received donations, and obviously those donations were seized because there is no on-chain privacy. So it was just as easy to block their accounts as it is to block any bank account. That was with the truckers. Then James Zong stole 50,000 Bitcoin from Silk Road in 2012. And he was caught nearly a decade later when he transferred 800 to a KYC exchange. Instantly, boom, Chainalysis flagged it that it was from the stolen Bitcoin, and they identified because it was a KYC exchange. So again, just because, someone hasn't been associated with some kind of criminal activity doesn't mean that you're off the hook when they are recording everything. We've seen this with the Roman case, if you're familiar with, he just made a transaction way back on Mt. Gox and voluntarily, because he wanted to be a good guy, voluntarily KYC'd himself. And then later now Chainalysis claims that he owned Bitcoin Fog and that's why he's in prison. And the rest is like the OFAC censorship. So there was an individual that was engaged selling items on roadblocks, black market platforms, and the proceeds were thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and they were transferred to blockchain.com wallet, and the funds were immediately frozen. OFAC license was needed to block the funds. So that's another way that they censoring to OFAC censorship. So China is updating now the social credit score system to incorporate central bank digital currencies. They already have a fairly functioning prototype. So if you, for example, if you buy any booze or cigarettes or video games with your Chinese digital wallet, Alipay will downgrade your social credit score automatically because you've been a bad boy, so now you have a lower credit score. There's financial blacklisting. So once your social credit score drops to D, you are blacklisted everywhere. So you can no longer buy food, order food, a hotel room, use plane, anything. You're basically a nobody at that point. And then the FRT payments. So the minimum social credit score is 650 to buy food in some supermarkets with facial recognition payments. So they're using your face, which is not just a cybersecurity concern, but also you can't reset your face. So farmers, for example, can only plant crops with government approval. So this is the absolute dystopia that they can create with the surveillance grid. So what options do we have? What realistic options do we have, right? So your first option is you can go full Amish. That is, obviously the pros, you would be private and you will be allowed, if privacy is one of your values, you will be in alignment with that. But recording devices will be everywhere. If we don't step up as regular citizens and don't push back, it's going to be everywhere. So we won't be able to leave the house, you won't be able to travel, work, interact with society in any meaningful way unless you become secluded. And this, I don't think this is a good solution. Obviously, you would suffer from anxiety and depression and not be able to be in touch with people. The second solution, and this is my favorite solution so far, I think Graphene OS really set the tone for this. So if you look at the Graphene OS example, they took a device that was built by Google. The Android is open source, by the way. So they took that device and they created a software that would make it behave, right? Because the only problem the Google phone has is that it's just spying on you nonstop. So it makes the Google device behave. I think this is a brilliant model for us to follow because, for example, Apple spent millions of dollars on research, and we may as well use devices, if they make it open source, to tailor it to be more privacy respecting. This is our lowest hanging fruit right now. You can create user privacy respecting software. Home Assistant, another project that I love. It has a huge open source development community, and all they do is they take these cameras that require all this surveillance, and they switch the software inside, and now it's privacy respecting. They don't have to pay for the subscriptions. It's not stealing their data, and that's all they do. And I think it's a very clever, sneaky way to sort of create yourself a little bit of space, a little bit of privacy. And then long term, we have to start, unless you live under the rock, this is just going to get worse and worse with AI as well. So we need to start changing the laws and regulations. We need to start to ban the sale of spyware. We need to start to have more hope and rights, because somehow they managed to bypass the Constitution with digital privacy, and we need to make digital privacy a protected right, so that corporations cannot create all this spyware. The GDPR legislation in Europe, it's working pretty well, I would say. The only issue with it is that at this point, only the government and the watchdogs can initiate a lawsuit. And the one we have in the oven, the APRA, the American Privacy Act, is going to allow, after 2 years, every citizen to be able to sue companies who are, recording us. So I'm hopeful about that. Long term, I'm very hopeful, because ultimately, over time, what makes sense survives. So if you think about the internet, it used to be HTTP, and now it's just HTTPS. And it survived because it makes sense. So that's why I'm hopeful about Monero's future. I'm hopeful about data privacy in general, because for good cybersecurity, we need privacy, and so it makes sense. But we have to fight for it on the legislative side. So crucial tools, this is for any of you developers? Okay, so crucial tools. Obviously, we need more circular economy tools, online marketplaces, Monero Market, XMR Bazaar, all these places I love using, because I'm able to buy fresh eggs and maple syrup from Ohio, and things with Monero. So even if at one point I get locked out of the traditional system for speaking too much freedom, I will be able to survive, using those. Did I shut it off?
That's your website. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
See if we can, do a quick restart. Go back.
Oh, I see.
Go to the last slide back.
One presentation, that's it. Just like Mission
Oh.
Impossible.
Okay. Yeah, it just terminated. Abort. Okay. It's doing the same thing.
The problem is the free software.
Yeah, so this is online marketplaces. Okay, self-hosted smart home applications. You talked about this, how passionate you are as well. So anything, Umbrella, Start9, all these self-hosted smart home applications that you can install. I would love to see more. Privacy visors and glasses specialized with lenses to distort facial recognition, like how to protect yourself from facial recognition. Privacy screens, anti-drone technologies. So what can someone do if you don't want your home insurance company snooping on you? Like, what rights do you have realistically? I think it's such a huge violation of privacy. Cars are now all spying on you, so privacy respecting cars would be nice. If you would have software so we could ensure that it's not recording us, even in our, because your car is basically like your home. Anything, phones, gadgets, smartwatches. I would love to see more open hardware, 3D printers, and gun recipes, such as in the movie That Athletic, costume drones, and costume robotics. So like these are the things that we need to focus on. And some of these things, like the BTC Pay server, we're working on. So that would be it. Any questions? Really?
Hi. The quick question I just had was about the pendant.
Yes.
It's being sold with people knowing it can record them, or it's being sold with people not knowing it can record them?
It's being sold knowing it's going.
Okay.
It's being advertised as a pendant that's going to record your conversations for
And
you.
people are just buying it anyways.
just buying
okay.
it,
That was
yes.
my question,
But
because I
it's-
was like, it seemed highly illegal for people to not know it's being recorded, but people are just willingly buying it.
Yes, but the question is not like, if you want to be recorded, fine. But why
It's-
should I be recorded because you bought this thing?
Who wants to be recorded all the time?
People buy it. Yeah.
Do you know in Colorado, is it legal to record somebody without them knowing?
Ask the question again.
In Colorado, is it legal to record, to make a recording of a conversation if the other party doesn't know it, that it's being recorded? I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, but
It is legal?
I'm not. I don't think.
It's not a single party consent.
In,
It consent upon.
oh, okay, so
Texas is a single party consent state, so it's followed by agreement.
so in Colorado, if you record a conversation,
Hold on,
Not in
hold on.
public.
We're going to move on. Next question.
I just want to answer that. Colorado is a one permission state. It varies state by state. Some states require all parties to know and approve, but Colorado right now is just one.
anybody can record a conversation?
Yes. There's also a difference between a private conversation and a public conversation. There's less expectation of privacy in a public place. I have to do this, so I know.
What about dash cams?
Do either of you know about dash cams? Because people are, I mean, you go to Google Maps, license plates are blurred out, but a dash cam, somebody could post something and it's got your license plate right there. So I don't know if that falls under the same category, because you're not recording a voice, but you're recording someone's actions.
Quick question. So, one comment. Every tool that you mentioned, there's a place where you can find all these tools. libertytools.io/privacy. I have almost every single thing on there, including a bunch of privacy tools for cars. So if anyone's interested. But my question is, what are you most excited about in the Monero ecosystem? Like, what's the hot thing right now that really has the chance of changing the game?
So yeah, that's a good question. So we've been doing this ground zero in Mexico City. Basically, we have about 30 vendors that would like accept Monero, and we used Cake Wallets, we used BTC Pay server, and we are testing out the full 360 user experience. So like the payment, what does the vendor does, and I am most excited about BTC Pay server and what they are doing, because they're making it easy for vendors to start accepting, run their own payment server. I'm also very excited about Umbrel and Start9 because it's a one-click solution. I'm a big fan of one-click solutions, so that a busy nurse or a plumber who doesn't have time to, basically has a life and doesn't have time to nerd out on tech, can still access it if it need be.
Yeah, hi. So I'll try to be brief. I happen to work for Microsoft, which is where I'm employed right now. So as a general advice for everyone in the room, if you're running Microsoft Windows, you may want to buy kerosene and burn your computer like yesterday. I'm not joking. I mean, it's fine that you laugh, but that's what you should do. And that's a completely different conversation of the things we do. And I am part of the problem. I need a visa to stay here, but that's a different story. I I'm not going to go into detail. I will disagree on the GDPR. I think it was a terrible idea because it has all of the downsides in terms of usability and none of the benefits. And you just mentioned one. I cannot sue a company that is misusing my data. The government has to do that, and the government will never operate with me. Separate from that, I think a very interesting part on the electronic ID, it's kind of a coincidence because just today, I'm from Italy, and they came up with this app that I should download, and my digital ID was there. Now, so they are doing that system. And I remember in 2018, when they were kind of starting deployment, I was talking to the developers of the system. And first of all, there is this culture that they really believe, and I don't blame them, that they're doing a service to the country. Like we're digitalizing, we're doing a good thing, it's a good convenience. And so they don't even see the problem. I think, especially in Europe, we're lacking, I would say, the intelligence of understanding what is happening. But on the other hand, how can I blame them when they're receiving a salary of over 120,000 euro a year, which already in 2018, it was a dream when the average is 45. What are you going to do? I'll take the check. And so that's what they did. So I don't know what we're going to do about it. I really don't. But burn your computer if you're running Windows. That you should do now.
Linux all the way.
Do you have, or anyone in this room have advice? I have to get my driver's license renewed. And if you have a little star on your driver's license, it means you've gone into a national digital ID program. And so does anyone have any advice how to get a new driver's license without the little star on it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I like to take this kind of useless bottle. So Colorado by default will give you a real ID, and so does Texas and a bunch of other states. So it's not that it's international, it's more that they communicate a bunch of data to the federal government so that can be electronically verified. So depending on the states you live in Texas, for instance, you have to have a real ID or you're not getting an ID. In Colorado, you can opt out. So all you need to do is go to your DMV and claim, I don't want this, I want a regular ID, and they have to give you one by law, but depends on the state. I have a no real ID one, but by default, I will give you a real ID one.
Then do you know what the implications are for traveling?
You can legally travel without proper identification on a flight. They have to let you. But they have to give you no real ID.
We need to talk about privacy and driver's license. Any other questions? So I have a question real quick. So other than Monero, so you're talking about like one-clicks, like Umbrel and Start9. What other tools like that do you think are really good tools that are really easy to utilize and offer a lot for that use?
So I really recommend the Graphene OS as a phone for multiple reasons. One, everybody thinks that you're going to have to give up on your spyware app. No. They have a sandbox so you can put all your spyware app and partition it in one profile. It's kind of like having two phones, actually. And then have another profile where you can have all your private data, so it's safe. Switch your computers. Obviously, you try to use Linux. Privacy is not a light switch. It's more like mountain climbing. So you start with the operating system, and then you check which apps to use. Try to use open source apps that are verified and recommended. Move out VPN, stuff like that. And just it's not a one-size-fits-all. It depends on your threat model. Like, what are you trying to hide and protect? What data and how sensitive is that data? And then based on that, decide if you need like super private apps or if you can, if you can compromise a little bit so that it's not inconvenient. And the other thing is like this is something that Liberty on the Rocks can help, is really have those conversations with regular, normal people that we need to push back. My sister always tells me that, Csilla, you just want people to just have a pitchfork and go, like, we need change. And you have to appreciate discourse is important. Like slowly, people have to become aware what's happening, all these surveillance, and how we can push for change. Because if we don't demand it, they're not going to change. This is a choo-choo train going towards China-style surveillance.
So I'm going to ask one follow-up kind of on that. So for someone who might want to run Linux and Graphene OS, how easy do you think it is for someone who's not very technical to run both of those tools?
Good question. So you can purchase it pre-installed. There's a little bit of trust involved with that. Or there's tons of good YouTube tutorial videos. It literally just takes 10 minutes to install it. And the phone doesn't cost, you can get the cheapest one for like 200 something. So you even save on the price of the device. And the biggest thing I love is that because it's not spying on you, your battery life lasts forever. So it's so much better, cleaner. And then Linux, I mean, you can buy computers pre-installed with Linux, or you can just install it yourself.
If anybody wants to talk to me or Chill afterwards, and we can maybe look into setting up a workshop for getting Graphene installed. I've installed it a few times. So if anyone's interested in that, hit us up afterwards. Otherwise, that is our talk. Give it up for Chill.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.